Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and my distinct honor to be standing here again this evening for the second annual Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame induction banquet. Last year was a phenomenal event where I had the pleasure of taking part in a ceremony to honor Bill Wilson and Don Cole, two phenomenal pioneers of the real estate industry and two phenomenal Stanford alumni. And this year's induction class of Henry Segerstrom and Malin Burnham certainly lives up to that standard and takes us forward to a whole new level in terms of recognizing professionals and luminaries within the field of real estate from the Stanford alumni community. I think the only thing that really surprises me about this evening and the fact that we made it to a second year and the fact that we're establishing this legacy is that I was actually invited back to stand up here and run this again. Before we move into the evening's ceremony and recognizing the two honorees, I just want to take a quick moment and relay a story that sort of symbolizes both our organization and this event this evening. I had the distinct pleasure this year of, as we were preparing for this banquet and this ceremony, to get to know both Malin Burnham and Henry Segerstrom much better and to spend some time with both of them, share a room with them, and listen to their insights and their stories. And there are too many to share from both gentlemen. But one thing that I learned as a lesson from Henry is he told me about the genesis of South Coast and about the importance of capturing the essence of what is Southern California. And he said that if you think about Southern California in its disparate parts, LA, Orange County, San Diego, each one of those cities has its own reputation, both good and bad, but within the entire community and the place that we call Southern California, there's this grand vision of what Southern California means. And if you close your eyes and you think about Southern California, it's us coming together here tonight. It's people from the disparate communities of Southern California, from disparate backgrounds. We have people in this room who are attorneys, people who are developers, we have people who work for title companies, brokers, other bankers, other industry sectors. And if you take any one of our groups, and I'm a developer, so I'm throwing myself in there, and you think about our group, there's plenty of jokes and negative stories you can come up with. But if you think about us all collectively as professionals in the real estate industry coming together in this room tonight, that to me is what's special, and that sets us apart. We're not just bankers, lawyers, and developers. We're not just from LA, Orange County, or San Diego. We're part of a community, and we're here to recognize two men who are leaders of that community and true luminaries. And that's what's special to me about tonight and why I'm very, very proud to be here. Before we move on, there are a few very special guests that I'd like to recognize in addition to our two honorees this evening. We have a number of people representing our community leadership. We have U.S. Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, who's here with us tonight. And if each of you would like to stand up as I read out your names and introduce yourself to the group, that would be wonderful. We have California State Assembly Member Alan Mansour, who brought a wonderful proclamation with him from the State Assembly in tribute to Henry. We have L.A. City Councilwoman Jan Perry with us this evening. Costa Mesa Mayor Pro Tem Jim Righeimer, and Costa Mesa Councilman Steve Mensinger. And we also have a wonderful proclamation that was presented by the city of Costa Mesa. And we also have a proclamation that was provided by Jerry Sanders, the mayor of San Diego. And you can look in your programs, you'll see the proclamations in the first part of the programs. And not only is there a proclamation from the city of San Diego, but today, September 28th, 2012, has actually been named Malin Burnham Day for the city of San Diego. So we can now add to Malin's long list of accomplishments that he has his own day, something that each one of us can aspire to achieve in our own lifetimes and probably never get there. So congratulations, Malin. This evening as well, we'll have some, in addition to our honors, we'll have some gifts to give out to the honorees. Another very quick but interesting story is that last year, we're Stanford, and Stanford's all about technology and things that are uniquely Stanford. So when we honored Don Cole and Bill Wilson last year, the tribute gift that we gave to each of them was an iPad that was in a custom engraved binder, and then we loaded onto that iPad the tribute videos that you'll have an opportunity to see later tonight. And it was a phenomenal gift, and they very much enjoyed it. But this year, and this, you have to always respect your honorees and abide by their wishes. This year, in one of our meetings with Henry Segerstrom, Andy came back to the meeting and said, Chad, we've got a problem. And I said, well, what's the problem? Is something going wrong with the dinner? Is there some issue with the caterer? Are they not happy? What's going on? He says, well, Henry said he doesn't need an iPad. So we have a special surprise gift for both honorees this evening. It's concealed behind me. Yeah, it's there. And at the end of the evening, we'll reveal what that surprise gift is. So stay tuned for that. So without any further ado, there's, as I said, there are a couple of other people that I do want to recognize who are here with us tonight. In particular, Kathy Cole is here in representation of the late Don Cole, one of our honorees and inductees for last year. Kathy, really appreciate you being here. And Kathy shared with me how proud she knows that Don would be to be succeeded by two such wonderful men and luminaries in the community. And our other honorary dinner chair, who's not here this evening, is Bill Wilson, who was also our other inductee last year, as I said. And our co-chairs for this banquet and for this ceremony are two of my fellow board members from Spire that I would like to recognize as well, and that is Sam Freshman and Fred Allen. And we're very, very appreciative of the continued support of many of our sponsors, but in particular Alan Matkins, which is Spire's core sponsor this year, again for the second year, and their generosity makes a lot of our programming, our events, and our achievements possible. So thank you again to Rick Mallory, to Fred Allen, and the rest of the firm for their support. So I'll let you get to your dinner this evening. We'll serve the salad course, and that will be followed by a memorial tribute for Donald Kennedy, the former chairman of First American Financial, and then we'll move into the honors later in the evening. So thank you very much. Enjoy your evening, and I'll be talking to you in a bit. I'd like to take this opportunity, if I could, to introduce to you someone who, for me, is certainly deserves a seat at the table of real estate luminaries in Southern California. He's someone who, for me personally, has been a great mentor and a great friend and a great supporter of Spire since his time joining the board of directors and becoming the chairman of the board of directors for Spire. I'd like to introduce you all to the chairman of Stanford Professionals in Real Estate, as well as the CEO of Standard Management Company, Sam Freshman.
I want to thank you all for coming. Spire is a group effort, and we would be nowhere without all of you, both those who are Spire members and those who are friends of Spire and friends of Spire. And we just want to keep expanding that as far as we can go. I'm really here tonight to honor a very good friend of mine, Donald Kennedy, Some of you know Don. I know that he was friends of Henry's, and many of you are from Orange County and know him personally. I had a underwritten title company. It's called Trans-State Title in the 1960s. And we were underwritten by Louisville Title. And First American did have a competitor of ours, Fatco, I think it was called, which was the local underwritten title company for First American. And we decided with Fatco and a few other companies to form a title plant. The only real title plant there at the time was Title Insurance and Trust. And they weren't too happy about making any of their facilities available to all these upstarts. Don was on the board of the plant with me, and very helpful. And I was always impressed because I'm not sure I would have helped a competitor to the extent that he did. We have tonight, who we will forgive him, Parker, Donald's son, who is now the chairman of the board of First American. He went to that school, I think it's US something or UC something. But Parker is really a chip off the old block. My wife and I went down to get into Orange County. We had to have a passport, but we went down to a reception that was hosted by First American in their facilities. And Parker was kind enough to spend, and it was a busy day, I could tell, because people were always sort of pulling at him as we went around. He came down and gave us a 25-minute personal tour of the facility. And I think that, Parker, you are a chip off the old block, and I'm going to let you say a few remarks about your dad, and I know that everybody's waiting to hear that.
Thank you very much, Sam, and thanks everybody for being here. It's fun to be in attendance with so many great graduates of Stanford, and my family has a tradition of going to Stanford. My grandpa went to Stanford, my grandma, my mother, my father, and my sister, and my son. And I should introduce a lot of people, but I will stick to my son and his wife, Don Kennedy and Justine Kennedy. Stand up and say hi to everybody. And just the First American people, stand up if you would. Say hi. And they haven't hit their maximum yet for title orders. They're still accepting title orders. So keep that in mind. My parents were real Stanford people. As I say, both of them went to Stanford. They were married in the Stanford Chapel 66 years ago. I, as Sam mentioned, attended USC, a school that I'm sure you all would agree is far superior to Stanford. And I'm just kidding. My dad was always nice about it, but he absolutely hated SC. And he thought of Berkeley as a rival, but SC he hated. So, but this evening is a wonderful honor for my dad and for our family. Dad passed away in March. He had a great life. He lived 93 years. That's a long time. 4 of his best years were spent at Stanford. He was a member of Zeta Xi, better known as the Zate House, and he had his brand. I saw his brand right up until the end, and he was proud of his Z on his forearm. And that fraternity is gone, and there's something about a fire truck in Lake Lagunitas, and I don't really know what happened, but that's what I heard. My dad played a lot of golf in his life, and he played golf for Stanford University. And in 1939, the golf team at Stanford University, which my dad was on, won the NC2A championship. And he played monthly at Los Angeles Country Club with 20 of his Stanford buddies for over 40 years, every month. And he had 9 holes in one in his life. And if you don't play golf, you're kind of going, well, big deal. Well, that's a lot of holes in ones. It's 9 more than I've had. So after graduation, Dad went into the Navy. He was the skipper of an LCI boat. He went to law school thereafter, USC. He joined what was then called Orange County Title in 1948. It's now called First American. At that time, it was just one office in Santa Ana, and it had revenues of less than $1 million. When he stopped coming to work at the age of 90 a few years ago, our company was a Fortune 500 company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. So he had a wonderful run at First American, and he built a great company. And he did it by letting our managers run their office like it was their own office. And he really hated bureaucracy, and he refused to interfere with the local manager from the home office. And it all worked. It was great. He was an active Stanford alum. He served on the Stanford Athletic Foundation Board while Ted Leland was the AD, and he had a wonderful experience. He was a serious philanthropist. Most of his charities were Orange County based. 2 of the biggest were Bowers Museum and Chapman University. Yeah. But Dad loved Stanford the most, and he would have loved to have been here tonight, particularly so that he could help to honor his friend from grammar school, high school, and college, Henry Sigerstrom. My dad was smart, but never condescending. He was tough, but he was never mean. He was a great dad and a great boss, and he was a wonderful person to be around. And he was fond of lifting a glass and saying, "Be of good cheer." And if he was here, that's what he would do. So be of good cheer. Here's to you. Thanks so much for this honor.
I wish I could speak that well. I wanted to honor a few people here who've made this thing a success, some of whom you're already appreciating, and some you will by the time this is over. Andy, would you stand up? Andy is our executive director. And the office staff. I want to say our thanks for Howard Wolf at the Alumni Association, the small one. We're the big one. And Monica, is Monica here? Some of you have already seen the tribute book. Monica did the tribute book. Is she here? Where are you, Monica? If you need anything like this, she's wonderful. Those of you who attended last year know that she turns out a tremendous product. Susan, you're going to see her movies. It's not like the Muslim Innocents, but I think you'll enjoy them. Susan, where are you? Susan Niesloss, where are you? There's a few people. I really can't acknowledge everybody in each of the families, the Burnham family and the Sigerstrom family, but I would like Mary Beth Burnham and Elizabeth Sigerstrom to stand up and take a bow for their contributions to getting this together. In your booklet, you'll see several other people. We can't really acknowledge everybody because we've got to move on and get this thing over hopefully by 9 o'clock. So enjoy your next course, and we'll go forward with the program.
We will now turn, as I said, to the heart of our program for the evening, and recognizing two amazing men, as I said earlier, true luminaries in terms of the real estate industry, two phenomenal alumni from Stanford, and two amazing men. And to introduce one amazing man, it takes another, and I certainly have enjoyed getting to know Henry Segerstrom, but my knowledge, my experience, and my time with Henry is not enough to do justice to his legacy and his story. So I have the pleasure of introducing Larry Higbee to provide the introduction of Mr. Segerstrom. And Larry is the chairman of the board of directors of the Segerstrom Center for the Arts. And he's the past president and CEO of Apria Healthcare Group, and has worked with Henry for many years to put together the complex that you've seen around us tonight, and is a great benefactor and steward of the arts here in Orange County. And as an Orange County resident, I'm certainly grateful for his endeavors and for the support that Mr. Segerstrom has provided as well. So without any further delay, Larry Higbee.
I think before we start, we were fortunate in that we were able to produce a video that sort of says a lot of what I wanted to say anyway, and I think it would be most appropriate. Why don't we start with the video, okay? I think there are 3 or 4 sort of godfathers of Orange County, and probably number 1 is Henry.
People think day by day. People don't think in 40, 50, 100-year spans. And Henry does, I'm sure of it.
I would think of Henry as a very kind, very brilliant man.
He defines for me what a visionary is.
Henry and I had little toy cars that we would play with, kids, little tiny metal ones. For some reason, I don't know, I took a car and tossed it at him. Maybe I thought he was going to catch it, but I think it hit him in the head. And I was teasing, I said maybe that's how he became such a visionary.
My grandfather came here in 1898. There were 15,000 people living in Orange County. Imagine 15,000 people. That wouldn't be enough to fill the Coliseum in Los Angeles. So we went through 50 years of agriculture where our family purchased small pieces of land here. My grandfather told his boys, he said, just buy land because they'll be selling standing room in Orange County someday.
They were bean farmers way back in history. When his mother was still alive, I'd come to visit him here, and he always came and visited, but the first thing he did was go talk to his mother, because she was a business person too.
I was in my junior year at Stanford when Pearl Harbor hit. My life changed very abruptly. I went on active duty on my 20th birthday when I was 20 years old.
His experiences as in the service, it had a tremendous impact on his life because he was badly injured. He was filled with shrapnel in his back, and he was very ill. So he spent many years in a hospital. And I think, that gives you a different perspective on life.
I had a long series of operations. I had osteomyelitis for 50 years. Can you believe that? Before they finally cured it. It was after the Performing Arts Center opened.
In the Performing Arts, the building of that, and putting that together, and I was just amazed at his tenacious way. But what most people don't know, that this early on, before that started, he was already going to back east to New York and cultivating all these different associations and people and different artists.
I remember on opening night in September 1986, being able to stand up in front of 3,000 people and say, this building is paid for and it's all private money. We had no public funding. And that was really quite remarkable. I was pleased that in 1995, I was elected founding chairman of what is the Segerstrom Center for the Arts. And that pleased me very much.
He understands so thoroughly and so clearly and so well the present that he can make intelligent projections that will tend to come true. That's why he was able to gamble his fortune and the fortune of his family on building a shopping center on the lima bean fields.
He had successfully launched South Coast Plaza against direct competition of Fashion Island in Newport Beach and the Fashion Square in Santa Ana.
As someone he wants to put in the shopping center, he'll be very persistent. You know, and on one of them, he worked with him for 10 years. I thought when they were going to have the shopping center that it would be, you know, middle class, you know, focused to upper middle class. And we have a lot of very high end. I said, why did you do that? You know, not many people have a lot of money to attend, you know. He said, Ruth Ann, all they need is one sale to pay the rent. It boggles my mind.
It used to be that if we wanted a tenant, we would go to New York or Paris. Today, they're coming here. I mean, it's incredible.
His family believed in what our potential was, and they made an extraordinary gift of land to us, and we were able then to mount what was the first major capital campaign for a cultural arts facility, as far as I know, in the history of Orange County. He genuinely understands the value of the arts. An example of why someone like Isamu Noguchi would accept, you know, a commission to do the extraordinary Noguchi Garden that Costa Mesa is blessed to have.
I think that so often we're intimidated by art and intimidated by artists. By and large, the better the artist, the more they're looking for a relationship to help them with new projects. So I happen to be there at the right time with several.
He has developed schools, parks. He sees development as a fully integrated set of many things that enhance people's lives.
Henry will be remembered not only as a great individual citizen of Orange County, but a real visionary, one that took various separate elements of architecture, of fashion, of the performing arts, and combined them together to give a whole that was bigger than the sum of its parts.
I think that I've been very fortunate. I've had good support in my family. And I think everyone is very proud of what we collectively have accomplished. I love to accomplish things.
It is a distinct honor to be here this evening to introduce you to one of this year's inductees in the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame, Henry Segerstrom. You know, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think the style and beauty captured in the video we just saw goes a long way to explain the type of man that Henry Segerstrom is. But in a way, those buildings we just saw are only a small part of the genius that is Henry. Most of us think of real estate, we first think of dirt. Indeed, that is where Henry started as a young man. He and his family farmed the land we are now sitting on tonight. I'm reminded of a bike trip I took when I was a young boy from my home in Pomona to what was then a very small community, Newport Beach. You pedaled for miles on Harbor Boulevard. After you passed Disneyland, there were only 3 landmarks: a 4-way stoplight, a pancake house, and an Hawaiian restaurant located in the middle of a cabbage field that was continually being closed by the sheriff for one reason or another. Past the restaurant were miles and miles of produce farms with cabbage and lima beans. This was the Orange County early in the 1960s, just 50 years ago today. About that time, Henry began his career in real estate in an odd way at a college called Stanford. His first undertaking was sizable, trying to revive the Sigma Chi fraternity house. Now, as a Sigma Nu from UCLA, it's hard to imagine why anyone would want to become a Sigma Chi, particularly at Stanford. However, and what would later become a Segerstrom trademark, he persisted, and the Sigma Chi house soon became a thriving part of the Stanford campus. Meanwhile, Henry was one of the first to see the vast potential Orange County had beyond farming. He led his family in purchasing and developing land, particularly in Santa Ana. But success there soon gave rise to the massive undertaking of South Coast Plaza. At first, largely known as the place where Sears was located, he coaxed, gambled, nurtured, and developed this retail location into today is one of the most sought-after stops for shoppers throughout the world, including my wife. Each and every retail establishment was personally pursued by Henry. If he saw a special place in his travels throughout the world, he would leave his card with the manager. This would start a courtship that Henry almost always won. Some relocated quickly. Others took a bit longer, like Tiffany's, which was a 20-year quest, which he finally won. South Coast Plaza became the place to be, not just to shop, but to eat and feast over the ever-changing world of fashion. So it was also that with the buildings he constructed surrounding South Coast Plaza. Each was unique, distinct, and of the highest quality. He added many of the buildings, art and sculpture, like the Noguchi Gardens, to create a sense of place beyond just glass and steel. During this development came the vision that was to make Henry truly unique, the Segerstrom Center for the Arts. Starting with South Coast Repertory Theater on a site that was known then as Goat Hill, the Segerstrom family first gave the gift of land, followed by generous donations to create SCR, which, by the way, was named by Time magazine as one of the 5 best repertory theaters in the country, and the birthplace of countless new plays that have become modern-day classics. SCR was followed 25 years ago by the opening of Segerstrom's Hall, and 7 years ago, through additional gifts of land, the creation of the Renee and Henry Segerstrom Concert Hall came into being, designed by Cesar Pelle, clearly one of the finest concert halls in the world. In addition, the land gift provides for the construction of the future home of the Orange County Museum of Art. In all, this center will be a true arts campus, encompassing all forms of the performing and visual arts. Finally, he established relationships with both the Los Angeles Arts Center and Carnegie Hall to ensure the presentation of a wide source of world-class productions in the years ahead. Not too bad for a Lima bean farmer. The quality and diversity of the presentations at the Segerstrom Center, combined with the development of South Coast Plaza, resulting in something that is truly unique. South Coast Plaza, the Segerstrom Center for the Arts, and its surrounding structures became a special place of taste, art, style, performing arts, fashion, and beauty, a place beyond what is captured by the mere world's real estate. Taken together, it is a place of never-ending renaissance, created by a true Renaissance man. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like now to present the 2012 Stanford Professionals in Real Estate Hall of Fame abductee, Mr. Henry Segerstrom. Henry.
Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you. I think this is an unusual opportunity for me to say thank you to my immediate family and to their children, to my sister and her children, to all my relatives and their offspring. We have a wonderful family and we enjoy each other. What one accomplishes in life is never solo. It takes the cooperation of people who have similar ideas and hopefully similar talents. So I want to say thank you to our family and to the professionals and associates that we have in our organization. The Daily Pilot recently, I guess a couple of years ago, said that South Coast Plaza is the strongest factor in determining lifestyle in the southern Orange County area. The reporter called me and asked what I thought of it, and I said, well, we're number one. We like to be number one. And we're going to continue to be number one. But to bring us back to Stanford again and to Parker Kennedy, I told Parker something tonight that he wasn't aware of, and that is that his mother and I were in the same class at Stanford as freshmen. That also brings up the fact that an unusual circumstance. In 1940, there were 6 Segerstrom members of our family registered as students at Stanford, either undergraduate or graduate, and 3 women who were destined to carry the name Segerstrom, which meant there were 9. I don't think that that's ever been equaled or duplicated. So Parker, I hashed for your mother when I was a freshman to make money to go to the movies. Well, it's a thrill to receive this honor, and I know all of our Stanford alumni here are breathing a happy sigh of relief. We win some, we lose some. I won't say more than that. But truthfully, Southern California is a remarkable area. And remember, South Coast Plaza intends to remain number one. Thank you.
So as they're clearing dessert, I'll take just a couple of minutes to answer a question I've heard many times tonight, which is, well, other than this dinner tonight, what do you Spire guys do? When our organization was founded long ago in 2009, the vision of the organization was based upon 3 pillars, and those pillars remain the same today. They are alumni professional networking, which is what we're doing tonight, believe it or not, as well as through our alumni events during the course of the year. The second pillar of the organization is university outreach. And by that we mean reaching back into the Stanford campus and giving opportunities for students to seek professional development and to make connections within the industry. To that end, I'd like our Stanford students who are in attendance tonight to please stand so you can be recognized. Are they hiding in the back? There's Brian over there. And then the third pillar of the organization is one that I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to talk about because it's something that's very near and dear to my heart and very important to me, and that is educational program development. There are many institutions around the country that have a formalized real estate education program. It actually saddens me to say Stanford is not one of them. Stanford University, as a liberal arts institution, shies away from anything that could be identified as professional education. But we believe that real estate is truly a social science, and that there is a Stanford way to teach the field of real estate and to give students that have an interest in real estate the opportunity to engage in a discourse with multiple disciplines and multiple facets of the university. There is a group of students, and you might have seen in the slideshow a reference to the REIP, the Real Estate Innovation Program. And that is not something that Spire has created. It is something that a group of students at the university, some of whom are here this evening, across all of the schools, the law school, the business school, the civil engineering graduate program, the undergraduate program, have banded together and proposed an initiative to create a multidisciplinary education program in the field of real estate at Stanford. And this is something that the Spire Board of Directors has voted to throw its full support behind, and we're working over the course of this year and in the years to come to actually build an endowment and to promote the growth and development of that multidisciplinary real estate education program at Stanford. So that's one of our big missions, and our vision for the future of this organization is not just what we can do ourselves to advance our own careers and to advance our own initiatives, but truly giving back to the university in a way that makes a lasting impression and a legacy for years to come at Stanford University. So while we continue to have events throughout the year in our many regions around the country, small group dinners, larger presentations, while we continue to create educational and informative opportunities for the students through activities on campus, speaker series, things of that nature. Our real focus as we shift and move forward with the organization is really giving back to the university and promoting this initiative of real estate education at Stanford so that we can continue to educate the Henry Segerstroms and the Malin Burnhams of the future. Because I believe, and I think everyone in our organization believes, that this world can use a few more visionaries, and giving them the tools to succeed is a worthy goal. And that is the goal of Spire, is to provide those tools. I'd now like to advance our program and move on to recognize our other honoree this evening. And we'll roll the tape. Thank you.
Malin is the most energetic, enthusiastic, undeterred, creative person.
Malin is the ultimate leader, I would say. Community leader, business leader, Stanford leader.
Has always wanted to be number one in whatever he was doing.
He has been a mentor. He has been somebody who has just shown us how you should be a civic leader.
The most important part of my life today, and it has been for the last 25 years, is helping people. And helping people by not doing the ordinary, but attempting to think of different ways and different organizations that I could help start. And if the whole world would believe in community before self, would be a perfect place. I learned to start philanthropy at Stanford. I was told as a freshman that my tuition paid by my parents only covered about half of the cost of my education, and that the other half, sooner or later, should come back from me, should I be able to afford it.
So I went to meet Malin, and he kind of grabbed me by the collar and said, "Do I have a job for you?" And he says, I've been running Stanford and San Diego for decades, and it's time for new leadership.
My education at Stanford, and maybe it was because it was in engineering, taught me the most valuable lesson was how to analyze. Looking at something
mainly buildings, mainly real estate in my case, being able to mentally take it apart.
When he was running the John Burnham Company, he had a group of brokers that were well-trained, honest. You could rely on them. That starts at the top. And Malin's still doing it.
We've done some large projects, mostly they're mid-sized projects. We did an industrial park, for instance, in our Poway, the city of Poway in San Diego County, where we moved, for instance, 20 million cubic yards of dirt. That's a big project.
The thing that I like about Malin is, because we're a university and we've got lots of students and scholarship winners, is the amount of time he will take with students in direct eye-to-eye contact, interested in them. He has his own scholarship program, which every year he meets with the students.
Burnham Institute, it's now called the Stanford Burnham Institute. I think that's his pride and joy.
The Stanford Burnham Institute for Medical Research today is composed of about 1,200 staff people. We are the third largest recipient of NIH funding. We have 4 centers of research. Cancer is our biggest.
Malin is a provocateur for any organization. If he comes in and sees that it's not functioning right, he comes in and helps it to grow.
I remember sitting in a board meeting at San Diego State about the business school. We were on the board together, and we walked out together, and he looked at me and he said, "Dwayne, did you know there's so much going on here?" I said, "No." And he said, "We need to do something about this."
The mayor of San Diego reports to Malin Burnham. I think he's just constantly had the city's, everything about this city is in his best interests, and he's very committed to working with anybody to help make San Diego a better community.
There's never a project that he has gotten involved with he didn't think could be completely successful. And I actually admire that. He has really pushed Mexico and our need to be much better about our borders, and we've worked really hard with Mexicans on both sides of the border because we're one community.
I was one of the very early birds in deciding that it would be a great idea to bring the USS Midway to San Diego and make it into a public museum and tourist attraction. It took us 11 years just to get the ship here.
It's like living with the ever-ready bunny. He is on the go constantly, never slows down except about 9:30 at night.
We had a meeting in our office, and towards the end of the meeting, Malin looked at his watch, jumped up and said, "Excuse me, but I've got an important appointment downtown." And I was kind of surprised, and I asked one of his associates, "Where's he going?" He said he has a handball game downtown and he's never late. And that made a great impression upon me. Get your priorities straight and stick with them.
He's the only person I know that doesn't have a cell phone or a computer, completely proud of it, and he is the only person in San Diego who could get away with that.
I started sailing at age 10. My parents had never been on a boat before, so I wasn't following a family tradition. What the junior sailing program taught me was a lot more than just how to steer a boat. I was exposed to what I call my virtues and values. Things like dedication, follow through, hard work, never give up, play by the rules. I did win the World Championship in the Star class, which is I'm prejudiced, but I believe it's the premier sailing racing class worldwide. And I did that at age 17, which has never been duplicated. I would say my second highlight was helping Dennis Conner. We were partners in bringing the America's Cup back to America.
Well, he was totally in love with sailing, but we did have a power boat, and we took it almost all around the world. We had it for 11 years, put over 100,000 miles under the keel.
I have salt water in my veins. I've been around the water, and I have to be around the water to be comfortable and enjoy my life.
Malin plans to be around for a long time, so on his 80th birthday on the Midway ship, he promised me 25 more years.
That takes me out to 105, and I'll take all of my friends over the age of 100, and we're going to the moon to celebrate my birthday.
I'd like to now introduce two gentlemen who will provide a much more fitting introduction for our honoree Malin Burnham, Stath Karras and Dwayne Roth. Stath is the Executive Managing Director of Cushman Wakefield and the former President and CEO of Burnham Real Estate Services. And Dwayne Roth is the Chief Executive Officer of Connect, which is a globally recognized public benefit organization fostering entrepreneurship in San Diego. And he's worked with Malin for many years in philanthropic endeavors throughout San Diego. So Stath and Dwayne.
Good evening. Proud and honored to be here to recognize Malin and everything he's done in real estate. You saw in the video a couple things. The real Malin, who is definitely a character. Proud of the fact that he bought the Midway, and I saw the Midway and the real Malin, and it reminded me of a quick story I'll tell you. Malin and Roberta have been married 40 plus years now, and Roberta is, I think, 11 years his junior. And they may not remember this, but we were having dinner one night at a holiday party. And Roberta was talking about this wonderful memorial service that was held for a great real estate legend in San Diego, Corky McMillan. And there were thousands of people that came to the Midway to honor Corky McMillan. And Roberta says, Malin, when you die, I'm going to have a service just like that for you on the Midway. And Malin is fork halfway up to his mouth, and as only Malin can, he looks over at her like this and says, when I die, Roberta, you'll be 6 feet under. So that is Malin Burnham. And to understand Malin, I'm going to take you back a little bit because you need to understand his upbringing and his family. And stay with me here. I'm going to give you 4 names, easy to remember. You got great Uncle George. You got John Burnham, who was Malin's grandfather. You got Donald Burnham, his father, and of course, Malin. And like many of us in our families pursuing the American dream, Malin's great-grandfather moved from England to the United States and settled up in the Minnesota area. George Burnham, great uncle, started his dream by partnering in a shoe store. And then his grandfather, John Burnham, bought George's partner's interest out when he retired, and that shoe store in Minnesota became known as Burnham Brothers. George eventually, like most reasonably smart people from Minnesota, said, why am I in Minnesota when I could be in San Diego? And he picks up and moves his family to San Diego and persuades his brother John, Malin's grandfather, to move with him. George buys an interest in an investment company in San Diego, talks John into joining him. John eventually buys his brother out, and that firm becomes known as John Burnham and Company, which is a company that existed for decades and decades in San Diego. It was a name that was synonymous with integrity, professionalism, and community involvement. In 1915, John's son Donald joins the firm, and for the next decade, John Burnham and Company expands, and Malin's grandfather takes a very, very active role in the community for San Diego. When World War II ends, we have the post-war boom, and John Burnham and Company grows to 20 employees. You're a large company. 1949, Donald's youngest son, Malin, who was then 22 years old, joins the company, just graduating from the great university, Stanford, with a degree in all things industrial engineering. And he started his career, I'm told, as a mortgage trainee for $225 a month. Malin, was that sound about right? $225. The family does a great job of instilling in Malin a work ethic and a belief that anything is possible. And to this day, Malin's work ethic is exemplary. and he has a can-do and a must-do attitude that's as strong as I have ever seen it, and it seems to get stronger every year. His leadership and his competitiveness came out early. At 17, as he said, he wins the Star Class Sailing World Championship. 1 year later, that would be at 18, he builds his own spec house. At age 33, Malin becomes the president of John Burnham and Company. 3 years later, under his leadership, the company establishes one of the first California real estate limited partnerships and acquires what was then known as the Sleepy Hollow Apartments for $1 million, which then was a lot of money as a first investment. And from that initial investment, the decision was made to take the partnership and grow an ongoing real estate investment organization. So through this process, Malin continues to innovate. He forms the first SEC-approved real estate partnership that can be traded on the stock exchange, and he merges 3 partnerships into a public REIT. That evolves into Burnham Pacific Properties, with assets at the time of nearly $200 million, and soon to grow to a $1.2 billion New York Stock Exchange REIT. At the same time, Malin is managing the affairs of the company, which turns out to be California's largest independent real estate and insurance company. One little fact that a lot of people don't know, especially people even within the company in San Diego, in his visionary capacity, he sold his interest in the company back in 1986 to senior management, but stayed on as a chairman. And really to the day that the Burnham organization was sold to Cushman & Wakefield, everyone still thought Malin was a majority shareholder because he stayed so active and involved, but he had the vision to get his senior management involved, pass the gavel as it would, and let them run the company. Through his focus on real estate, Malin co-founds the Burnham Moores Center for Real Estate at the University of San Diego, which is still very ably guided by our good friend Mark Reedy, who's at the table here. And he establishes the foundation, through the foundation, scholarship awards, where he gives scholarships to 6 or 8 participants with emphasis in real estate studies. With a lifelong exposure to commercial real estate, Malin has been a partner in over 100 individual real estate ventures. The real estate community throughout our region has been greatly impacted, influenced, and benefited by the leadership and the vision of Malin Burnham, and I'm honored to be here tonight to review his impact on San Diego and commercial real estate. He was a great, and still is a great civic leader, and I'm going to turn the time over to my good friend Rain Wath, who will talk about Malin outside of the real estate world.
So, thank you, staff. So if you think that was tough to do, I had the job of trying to put together a coherent understanding of what this man really means to San Diego. So I did a matrix. I had rows and columns. And you could go on and on with the rows, and the columns just go forever. Malin, that's called a spreadsheet. You do it on a computer, Excel. But I thought I would choose a few that I believe is most passionate about. And I want to choose education, economic development, philanthropy, and family. So, education. This man is on so many boards. I start to list all the places I've been. This week alone, I was in 5 board meetings with him. They're at the university, San Diego State, USD. Every single one of them has this man at the top of their list to be there to provide advice. He's very proud of the time he was at Stanford, but he rarely mentions it because he's so interested in each and every one of them and to see how they can move forward and contribute to the economy and to provide good jobs for the students that come out. K through 12, he is fundamental to two of the charter schools that have just been off the chart successes, the Preuss School at the University of California, San Diego, and High Tech High. But he's very passionate when it comes to the teachers union. In fact, he gives them the constant challenging them to do a better job of educating our students and to stop thinking about their own interests. And I've watched him take them on over and over again. You heard about USD and Point Loma University, just to name some more. The second thing is economic development. Whether it's the Economic Development Corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, Connect, on and on, he serves on all their boards. We recently put a group together called the Chairman's Competitiveness Council. And we went to Malin to chair it because it was going to be a group that agreed to meet once a month for a year and to take matters into our own hands, recognizing that Washington or Sacramento wasn't going to bail us out and that we're going to have to figure this out in our own region. So he's guided that group to really understand our traded economies and our local economy and what we can do to actually bring more money into San Diego than we send out. And he's done just a terrific job of making that happen. You heard about Mexico. Dare you miss talking about the border. You know, Malin doesn't see it as San Diego. He sees it as San Diego, Tijuana. Not 3 million people, 6 million people. And if he has his way, that border will disappear because he believes the region is far more important than that line in the sand. So he talks about it constantly. There's a tremendous opportunity. You heard he doesn't have a cell phone. I think Roberta, he reads prolifically, but Roberta got him a Kindle. He never used it. He makes her pack up boxes of books to take on vacation. But again, he was so far ahead of us. You know, he read this book. If you haven't read it, it's called The Coming Jobs War. He's given all of us a copy. It's well worth reading because it describes what we in America have ahead of us if we don't figure out how to change the way we've been doing things. But he's always there first. The next row I had was philanthropy. You've heard about almost all these projects. I'm not going to repeat them, but I'm going to mention two that didn't get much attention in the video. One of them is called the Stanford Consortium for Regenerative Medicine. Malin, John Moores, Irwin Jacobs came together and decided that instead of having 5 stem cell institutes in San Diego, we'd have 1. And we get the 5 major institutes, Scripps, Salk, Burnham, and the university, and the La Jolla Institute of Allergy and Immunology to come together instead of going each our separate ways and put an institute that would be shared by all of them, and we moved the scientists into one building. That was unheard of. And it's a standard and a model for the country of how to collaborate and have a center of excellence instead of just having your own particular interest. The second is the Burnham Center for Civic Engagement, one of his most recent namings. And he did that because of what I'm talking about today. He believes the civic engagement and civic entrepreneurship is what makes every community great. And so he put his name on that building, hired a great director, and that person's job is to keep it civil, keep us all working and focused and talking and communicating. So last but far least is family. You're going to hear him talk about it, but he is fiercely family. And the family isn't the immediate people at this table. It's all of us. We are his adopted family. And so when you need help or you're hurting, you know there's a guy you can call who will be your sounding board, and he will talk to you until you feel better about things. So in these 1,000 meetings I've been in with Malin Burnham over the last 20 years, I've heard him talk about a lot of things, give a lot of advice, and I've talked to him personally about many things, but not once did he talk to me about his net worth or how much money he made or what his assets are. But he talked about community above self. Malin Burnham, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Talking about net worth, mine just went down a couple of pegs because of these two guys, what they just said. I don't really know where to start. This is an awesome, awesome moment for me, awesome time. So I did put some comments down on a piece of paper, make sure I cover a few things. I've been blessed in my life, and I was asked a long time ago, and I repeat this often, what was the greatest gift I've ever received? And it still is, the genes given to me by my mother and father. I'm very, very blessed with a lot of energy and a lot of life. And as Chad says, hopefully we'll see some of you people on the moon someday. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Spire founders, of which I was not one, for conceiving and starting this organization, Stanford Professionals in Real Estate. And as I think about it, and I look back, I wonder, why didn't this happen a long time ago? I graduated in engineering, and a week later I'm in the real estate world, which I've been in the rest of my life, as well as many other people have done the same type of thing. So I want to congratulate the founders and the members of Spire who have put it together and are carrying it on into the future. To me, it's also more than just a networking organization. With the association with Stanford, with the professionalism and the expertise of its great members, I think we can be an architect of maybe some of the future of real estate. We should, in my opinion, should speak out once in a while on policy matters and when we think things are going the wrong way in our country, in our society, as it pertains to our industry. Next, I would like to congratulate Henry. It's a great honor for me to be on the stage with you tonight, and I've always looked up to you and what you've done in this area. I've done a lot of sailing in Newport Harbor. I've come up from San Diego to compete against the people here. And so I've passed by these mortals and known Henry over the years and always had a great admiration. And so, Henry, you've done great, and it really is, I'm privileged to be sharing this evening with you. And to all of my wonderful San Diego friends who have come up here tonight, it's a great honor and tribute. Thank you very much for being here. And of course, my dear family, Roberta says, please don't ask them to stand up. So would you please all stand up at my table? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. We all know how important families are, and with all of the many decades of encouragement, without the many decades of encouragement for my family, I would not be standing here at this very moment. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I need to tell something about me, and that is that I have never, ever in my life accomplished anything by myself. I've always been part of a team. In sailing, I've got my name on many trophies, but I've always had at least one other crew, if not a dozen other crew on the boat. And you can't sail a boat of that size by yourself. So the same thing happens in business, the same thing happens in family, and I just have to tell, I say this all the time, never have I ever accomplished anything important by myself. I've screwed up and fouled up by myself, but not accomplished anything. When I was informed by Chad that I was to be inducted in the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame, I told him that this would be at least the equal of the gold spike that I was awarded some 20 plus years ago from Stanford, which also I cherish at the very highest. So I'm blessed. I'm humbled. I have a hard time coming up with the right words, but this is very, very important in my life, and it's not because of me, it's because of all the people that I have been associated with in business, in life, in sports, in civic areas. So in that regard, I accept this wonderful award on behalf of all my partners, associates, friends, and crewmates who have together made this happen. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to present this commemorative plaque to Malin in honor of his induction into the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Two amazing stories about two amazing men, two amazing legacies. I'd like to just thank a few people very quickly, some of whom you've heard about earlier this evening. Susan Niesloss for the wonderful videos that we saw this evening, Monica Kessling for putting together tribute programs, and Heidi Nietert, our sponsorship coordinator. How about a round of applause for those ladies? I'd also like to thank a couple of the family members of the honorees specifically, Mary Beth Burnham, who was really our key point of contact in making sure that we got the whole San Diego contingent up here. And I'd like to also thank the Burnhams for providing the party bus to bring up the San Diego crew. And Andrew Stenson, part of the team at C.J. Sigerstrom & Sons, who had the special assignment over the past few weeks to help us make this evening a success. And then certainly both Elizabeth and Henry Segerstrom for being our hosts this evening here at South Coast Plaza and for really helping us kick it up a notch and make sure that this evening was a tremendous and resounding success. So thank you very much to all of those family members. And finally, for my extended family that I have the pleasure of sharing my office with day in and day out and listening to the buzz of activity around Spire, I'd like to recognize Ashley Means, who is our administrative liaison for Spire, as well as the gentleman who deserves really 99.999% of the credit for everything that happened tonight, the gentleman standing with me on stage, Andy Wahlberger. And I will put one plug out there. This is where I put my sales hat on. If you all have enjoyed what is represented this evening by Spire, if you've enjoyed the vision of our organization, the reach, the networking, and the opportunity that we present, I would encourage you to check out the opportunity to become a Friends of Spire member of the organization. Believe it or not, we will even allow USC graduates into the organization with special permission. So thank you very much to everyone for attending. And before we break for the evening, as I promised you, there is a special surprise gift for both of our honorees. And I'll let Andy tell you the story of that gift and present it to both of our honorees this evening.
Grateful you could be here. You see on the slides here, Stanford Center at Peking University. In this past March 2012, Stanford opened a 35,000 square feet center at Peking University in Beijing. And we had the opportunity to visit that center in July with a group of alumni, and we took 2 students there, and it was a beautiful facility, a $7 million facility that you'll see on the right photo is the courtyard in a style of several hundred years old, no nails, just a gorgeous style. Then if you look at the center, that's a skylight that goes down 2 floors. That's kind of a corporate center that would look like something on Stanford campus, and it's really a beautiful thing. And as we toured this site, we came into contact with the boardroom at the Stanford Center at Peking University. So if you could turn to the next slide. So if you look at this boardroom, we saw some beautiful things there that were handmade in China that were unique to the Stanford Center at Peking University. And we learned about who manufactured those. We had one of our Spire members, Jingping Gao, who is here tonight, help us negotiate a contract, get some goods over from China, work them through customs so they could be here tonight. And here's our big reveal. A couple of chairs for Henry and for Malin. And if you'll see from these chairs is the Stanford seal hand carved into this chair. So the only 2 places these will be Malin and Henry's home or office and the Stanford Center at Peking University. So we hope you enjoy these gifts and grateful you be with us tonight. Thank you.
How about one more round of applause for our 2 honorees this evening? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.